John Carpenter is not only a godfather of horror, but he's one of the most illustrious filmmakers in all of cinema. There's just been so many amazing movies that he's been involved with, whether he's directed it or just been involved with the production. And so today we give him his flowers. It is your boy Tech. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 10K subs. Every subscriber matters. Yeah, you viewing this video right now, you subscribing matters. So go ahead and join the spooky gang and rock with your boy Tech as we go over the top 5 John Carpenter movies. Alright, spooky gang, we about to kick this thing off, and we're gonna start with number 5 on this list and work our way down to number 1. And so with that being said, the 5th best movie in my opinion that John Carpenter ever created is the movie Christine. The movie Christine is an adaptation of Stephen King's novel. It's essentially about a killer car that has a mind of its own. Previously, anybody who's viewed my videos before knows that I talk about movies sometimes having some level of a charm, and I think this is a movie that definitely falls in that category, because having your horror antagonist be a 1958 Plymouth is really wild, but there's just so much good that we get out of it. The movie explores themes such as obsession, alienation, and potentially toxic masculinity. And then you have Carpenter's direction, which lends, very eerie elegance and some level of a menace to the way that the car moves. And one of the biggest things that not only makes this movie great, but pretty much makes almost all of John Carpenter's movies great, is his score and soundtrack. Usually in a lot of John Carpenter films, he's very synth heavy and he's just really a master at it. Score and soundtrack for this movie is really good. It really builds a lot of tension. It helps give the movie sort of like a haunting feeling in a way. And then that works perfectly for the actors, where we get really strong performances from Keith Gordon. And so all of that together sort of culminates into this really nice and stylish blend of like teen drama and some supernatural horror with a sleek metallic vehicle. I mean, that's just really what it comes down to. But no, it's just a really good movie, and you could just really see how filmmaking style with the cinematography and the way that John Carpenter likes his shots, that this is just a John Carpenter movie through and through. Now down to number 4 on our list of top 5 John Carpenter movies, and that would be the movie They Live. This movie in a lot of ways is a cult classic. It's very sharp, it's very satirical, and it critiques a lot of consumerism and class control. This movie stars the one and only Roddy Piper. He plays as this drifter who discovers that his sunglasses reveal a hidden alien elite that's trying to control humanity. It's just a really fun B-movie with a lot of social commentary and a lot of one-liners as well. And with that social commentary and then all of the fun and hilarious moments that we get, and with this movie coming out so long ago, you really see that a lot of the things that this movie was trying to portray is still relevant in, modern times today. This is a movie that really holds up very well over time and has aged very well. And it's just honestly one of those movies that you can't beat. You just throw it on, have a good time, and then pick up on some of those subtle little messages and satirical moments. Now moving on to number 3 on the list. Number 3 is coming in as the movie The Thing from 1982. This movie is renowned as one of the best horror movies of all time, and I personally don't have too much of an argument against that. There are so many things that this movie does right, and outside of this movie being a masterclass on paranoia, isolation, and some body horror, but it's just the strong performances that you get again. And one thing that you will also notice with John Carpenter, as well as many other directors, you'll notice that there's a lot of recurring actors in a lot of their films. But that's something that I really like and I really enjoy when I get to see that from different directors, especially John Carpenter, because some of the people that he likes to keep in some of his movies, such as Jamie Lee Curtis, and with this movie having Kurt Russell has been in a good amount of John Carpenter films amongst all the other people that he has in this movie. It just really is, like I said, a masterclass of a film. And then going back to the body horror aspect of it, some of these practical effects that we get is just spectacular, especially for the time. Like, you think this is way back in 1982, so the craft and the level of detail that they put into these things, where they easily could have CGI'd it and made it look ugly and stupid, especially because the technology back then wasn't really that great. So it still would have been the cheaper way to go, but it's crazy. You really cannot appreciate that enough, and that's something that I wish more modern movies would do. One movie that did it very well, in my opinion, was The Substance, because when you use practical effects, it just looks better. CGI is too easy to tell that it's CGI. Practical effects really can make all the world of a difference. And then with this movie, there's themes of trust and identity and survival, for that matter, are explored with relentless tension. Just put yourself in their shoes. There's this thing that's going around and it hides its identity by looking like whatever it took over. So whether it was one of the dogs or whether it was one of the people, you really can't tell until it exposes itself. So like that is a really one, not only just an interesting concept on a movie, but the execution is what really makes it all follow through and makes it one of the best horror movies of all time. And now for number 2 of the top 5 best John Carpenter films, and it is easily one of my favorite movies of all time, and that would be Big Trouble in Little China. I absolutely adore this movie. I could go on and on and on and on about this movie. The nostalgia that I have for it. I grew up watching this movie. The first time I saw this movie was from my dad showing me, because he was already a big fan of it. So, you know, by the time I come around, of course, he would want to show me. And this movie is amazing. Like I said, talking about recurring characters, you have Kurt Russell in this one again. And this movie is just a wild, genre-bending mix of martial arts and fantasy and comedy and sci-fi. And, you know, like a sprinkle, a little bit of horror in there. Like, I mean, yeah, it's not a horror movie by any stretch of the imagination, but some of the visuals and some of John Carpenter's iconic soundtrack and score help set the mood and the atmosphere for a lot of the scenes, which kind of feel dark, and that gives you some of that little bit of horror element without it being a horror movie. But front to back, Kurt Russell as Jack Burton is phenomenal. I think that this is his best role out of anything that I've seen him in. Everything about this movie is vibrant, from neon lit visuals, from the buildings themselves in this little Chinatown area. It's just really great. It pokes fun at traditional action tropes, and like I said, it has that nice blend of some of that Chinese mythology, but with some of the American bravado and action in just a completely different way that we've really ever seen in any movie. This movie is also like the definition of a cult classic, really quirky, just a fun movie overall. I know for a fact that I could throw this movie on at any time and I can enjoy it no matter what. It was almost like it was a movie that was purely ahead of its time, and I couldn't have any more appreciation for it than I already do. And ladies and gentlemen, for our number 1 spot on this list of the top 5 best John Carpenter movies, we already know what it is. It's well anticipated, but we knew what it was to begin with, and that is John Carpenter's Halloween from 1978. This movie is the definition of a masterpiece through and through. Pretty much pioneered the slasher genre. Yeah, you have a movie like Texas Chainsaw that came before it in 74, but Texas Chainsaw didn't have like the global impact that Halloween has. Halloween is recognized not only for the movie itself, but what it represents for a particular season of the year. It introduced the GOAT, Michael Audrey Myers, and his William Shatner mask, which really adds a chilling factor to it because it's just so blank, pale, and emotionless. Damn, I'm starting to sound like Loomis. But yes, really, all that stuff really matters. And then not only do you have just the awesome cinematography, you have the perfect antagonist, you have a perfect protagonist in Jamie Lee Curtis. But then here comes your soundtrack and score. This is John Carpenter's most iconic work. Anytime they hear the Halloween theme kick on, they already know what time it is. They know what time of year it is. They just know, like, everything about it just gets you in such a mood that, I don't know, it's just perfect. It's so atmospheric and it's so minimalistic. Like, there isn't really a whole bunch to the theme, but what John Carpenter does that makes this special is, although each theme doesn't necessarily have a lot of elements to it, but there's a lot of characters that have their own theme. So like, there's not only just the original Halloween theme, but then there's the Shape Stalks theme, which is completely different. That's the dun dun dun. Then there's Laura's theme, and just so many different things. It's just beautiful. I love it, and I always anticipate Halloween every single year, just based on the score alone. Sometimes really the movie where Jamie Lee Curtis established herself as the Scream Queen and one of the best final girls of all time. It's just the ability to turn something so simplistic and so low budget and make it feel high production and be undisputedly one of, but in my opinion, the best horror movie of all time. I mean, what more can you say? It's just a perfect example of how atmosphere can triumph over effects. And similarly to what I said with some of these other John Carpenter films, I could not appreciate him enough for creating this, because it just created the best horror icon that we ever could imagine. And thank you, John Carpenter. But that is all I have, Spooky Gang. Y'all comment down below your top 5 John Carpenter films. and tell me what you thought of my top 5. I think a lot of ours will be relatively similar. You might have, you know, Escape from New York, also with Kurt Russell in it. You might have, you know, you might have some of his other films. I guarantee you probably won't have The Ward in there. I'll just go ahead and tell you that now. But yeah, y'all comment that down below. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe to the Spooky Gang. As I mentioned in the intro, we're on the road to 10K subs, and we're trying to hit that goal as soon as possible. So go ahead, show your boy some love. It would be greatly appreciated. But yeah, Spooky Gang, y'all already know the vibes. New banger gonna be coming out next week as always. And so until next time, Spooky Gang, love y'all. Y'all stay blessed and y'all stay spooky.